Hello and welcome back to Real Conversations from House of Scripture. Thanks for joining us again. I'm Jim Dattilo. I'm one of the elders here. We're located up here in Canton, Georgia. If you're ever in the area, go out to our website, look us up, give us a call, let us know you're going to stop by. I'm here tonight with our senior elder and our pastor, Tom Eubank.
Good to see you again, Jim.
Thank you. So the last couple episodes, we kind of dove into healing.
We did, yeah.
And on the second episode on healing, we're talking about impediments that could, in our opinion and what we believe, could impact somebody being freed up.
Right.
Being freed up. I think one of those things is pride. So tonight, in this episode, I'd like to talk a little bit about pride, or mention a person that's struggling with a rebellious and a prideful heart. And what are the dangers of living a life that's prideful before our good Father?
Well, we have a lot of scriptures that we are all familiar with, and so I was trying to find something that was pretty like a hammer when you asked me, told me we're going to talk about this. And you know, in the Proverbs, it has there's 6 abominations to God, yet 7, and one of those is haughty eyes. Now, so I thought, well, is haughty eyes pride? And if you look it up, it really talks about like an arrogance, which is pride, and this idea that you're above somebody else and you're at a different level from them. And that's the type of thing that God calls an abomination. And I once said this, is probably 10 years ago. I said, if there's anything in the Bible we want to avoid, it's something where we would be a part of or doing something that he calls an abomination. It's probably about the worst word you could think of. So, yeah, pride is something that is, I think that the Pharisees and the scribes in Yeshua's time, they were full of pride. And that's why he said, unless your righteousness exceeds the Pharisees and the scribes, you will not see the kingdom of heaven. They had so much pride holding them back. So it's a great topic. I can't wait to get to some of your questions, but for certain, God does oppose the proud, and he gives grace to the humble. We have to remember that.
Yeah, and I think it's a dangerous thing when we allow pride to swell up within our hearts. When we think that we're better than someone, or we've attained something that somebody else hasn't done, because we all have to remember where we came from. Right? He's constantly reminding us, remember you came out of Egypt, remember who brought you out.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to think back in our own lives what he rescued us from.
Exactly.
You know, and stay humble before him, realize he's so merciful. You know, I have to just be honest with you, sometimes when I know somebody's received a lot of mercy, but they're not merciful, and we have to protect ourselves from falling into that too. It's a little bit of a, you kind of think, don't we remember from where we came?
Yeah.
You know, that he rescued out us very trying times or bad decisions that we made. And it is by faith, and it's a gift of God that we're even saved at all, right?
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, no, it's true, Jim, and I think that there's all kinds of reasons that people get pride or start taking pride in things, and I think the older I get, the less impressed I am with anything that I've ever done in my life, because I realize how insignificant it is compared to what's going on in the world and everything around us. You know, I mean, there's one place in the scriptures where, and this is not really condoning pride, but it says, if you want to boast, boast in this, that you know and you understand me. So if somebody wants to say, I fully understand God, then go ahead, boast away. I think Jeremiah was sharing with us that we're never going to be able to boast, or we should never boast. And if you're going to try to do it, make sure you're boasting in him and what you know of the Creator. So, as we study and we learn more and we grow, it should encourage us to stick with it, but never should we ever look at ourselves as above anybody else, and we should certainly never look down at somebody else, because we were there at one point in time. And most of us never fully leave that spot, right? So most people are still struggling with certain things in their life that they have to overcome. As you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we were doing a private study. we're supposed to become like Christ. And we may get a few things down pat, but we're always struggling with
There's
one or
always
two
something we
things.
can. He's not going to leave us off the hook.
Right.
There's always something we can grow in. There was a time where, in one of the books of Paul's, I don't remember which one it was, but they were contending over, I'm of Paul, I'm of Apollos, and Paul just said, hey, look, it's Christ that's magnified.
Yep.
He's the one that, did I save? Did I do this? No, it was all about Messiah.
Exactly.
And even in our world today, and we're out on the internet, and we're doing these recordings for folks, we're not in competition with anybody, right? I mean, it's really about Messiah.
Yep.
And if one of our brothers and sisters is sharing something and it's leading people to Messiah and they're getting their souls saved, we glorify in that, right? I mean, it's wonderful that somebody's getting redeemed and rescued from this dark world. So I pray in Yeshua's name even now that, this goes out and our brothers and sisters that are out there on the internet are trying to help people and that we're not in competition. So what about, as we study, we're learning, we're digging in, and we start getting little glimpses of revelation, or the Father might show us something, and we start getting a little bit of knowledge. Have you seen where a little pride can creep in with that? Like all of a sudden we were better, not better, but we're more informed, and because of that, we got to be careful not to, again, we all started from somewhere, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And, I think we've all been guilty of it. I know that I've had to put myself in check a few times. And, one of the things that I always try to remind myself is there's always going to be guys that are way smarter than me, right? No matter how hard I study and no matter how much I try to study the Greek and the Hebrew, there's always guys that are just like, they pick it up and they know the language. And, I remember, just as an example, I don't think you'll mind me sharing this, Andrew Gabriel Roth, really a wonderful guy, and I met him, and I was a little intimidated at first because the guy's really smart. I mean, and he's got an amazing memory, right? So he remembers these things, but he's well studied, and he knows Aramaic, and he knows Hebrew, and he knows a fair amount of Greek. And one day the Father reminded me, he goes like, what are you so worried about? He goes, just be you. You're not in competition with Andrew. Andrew's got a ministry, and what he does is valuable, and he's a brother, and I encourage and I love him. But I'm not in competition with Andrew, and we're not in competition with anybody. We're supposed to be on the same team, really. And so I just try to be the best that I can be, and not try to be anybody else. And if Father gives me a revelation, I'll share it. Sometimes people don't even want to hear it. But I share it anyway, and you just move on. We're no better than each other.
Little story, there was and I won't name his name, but there was a pretty well-known a Christian writer, and he's got some books out there, and what's his name, Max Lucado?
Yeah.
He's another writer, so he says he's picking up the magazine, and Max's books in there, and Max leading a cruise, for Christians.
Yeah.
The next book comes out, Max is on the top of and he says, he goes to the Father in prayer, and he says, Father, why is this guy bugging me? I mean, what is going on? And he said, the Father spoke to him, he says, because his book's the #1 bestseller, not yours.
Yeah, that's right.
So sometimes we have to, it's about our Father, it's about the Messiah, and if people are being ministered to by a brother and sister, and they're coming into the kingdom the right way, give God the glory.
That's right, Jim.
Give God the glory that they're being rescued and their souls are not going to be separated from God. So, all right, so Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, it's Paul.
Right.
You know how we feel about Paul around here.
Paul.
We love Paul.
Until we don't.
Until we can't figure him out. But anyway, the scripture says, do nothing from rivalry or conceit.
Yeah.
Nothing. But in humility, and we talked about pride, and that's what we're talking about, pride and humility, count others more significant than yourselves. Isn't this the remedy for letting go of pride? Start letting realizing that people consider them more important than we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
And there's a lot of people are going to be lined up to see Paul when we get to the kingdom. We'll all want to have a chat with him. But Paul is brilliant in the way he writes things, and of course, Paul was a brilliant man.
Yeah.
He was a well-studied, a highly educated man. But it does say somewhere in I like how you phrased it earlier. It's like sometimes we don't know the exact chapter and verse. I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to be Jack Van Impe, right? But Paul wrote in there sometimes, I didn't come to you with eloquent speech to convert you by virtue of what I said. He goes, I came to you with the truth of the scriptures. And so, we have to understand that we're not in competition with other people. If we would hold other people in a higher esteem than ourselves, what I used to say here for the longest time is I'm the head servant, right? Okay, I may be in charge. I may have the responsibility of being on the lease and different things like that, but I don't like titles. I really don't like titles. I'm the head servant, because that's what Messiah was teaching us. He was being a servant to his disciples, and he was giving us an example that we could follow. So you can't elevate others above yourself unless you view yourself as a servant.
Yep.
And that's what I always try to remember. I'm not going to pretend like I don't forget some days and I don't fail, but that's what I try to remember. And if I do fall and I make a mistake and I fail in that area, I try to be quick to remedy it if an apology is necessary to someone, or just repenting to God himself directly.
Yeah, me and Patty been studying a little bit and talking a lot about, and I know I shared this on a Wednesday night, about keeping our egos in check, right? So when you start feeling that ego start welling up within us, it wants attention.
Right.
It wants to be heard. It wants to be right.
Yep.
It wants to be acknowledged. When all those things become more important to us than someone's heart, or them coming into the kingdom, or us lifting them up in encouragement, we should have, as we walk this thing out, we're getting a little older in this and we're maturing in this, we should start recognizing that, it might take us a few minutes, but at some point we think, no, that's not good. And this is that ego thing that Paul struggled with, when he says, oh, wretched man that I am, I've still got this sinful nature going on in me, and that's the thing that brings tension, and we have to combat with sometimes.
No, you're right.
So.
And it's always good to have certain things you can draw on that you remember. And for me, I try to think back on some times when I failed. And I remember early on, Tony Boyette, who's a good friend of both of ours, and he was putting together with Mason Clover United in Worship. It was in existence for a while, then they didn't do it for a few years, and they brought it back. And he called me up when they were going to start it up, and he said, would you MC it for me? And I'm like, sure, Tony, whatever you need, I'm here to help. And I went down, and so all I really did was I opened this up in prayer, and I had to kill a couple of minutes in between when he'd have a speaker or a music band, say a few words about him. And I'd never done it before, but for me it was a challenge, it was fun, and I was excited to do it because I just wanted to be a part of something bigger than what we were doing at the time. And then the next year he asked me to teach. And the second year after that, he asked me to teach again. And, and he was getting, a couple hundred people come out. And, we'll have a good day when we have 50 here.
Right.
And then the next week we're back to 25, right? And so I was getting a little excited. And then the following year, he didn't ask me to teach again. And I remember having a little check. I'm going like, what's up with this? Why wouldn't he have me back again? And I never asked him about it because it wasn't, the Father dealt with me real quick. Because he didn't ask you back again, so I told him not to ask you back again. I need to keep you in check where I have you because I have a purpose for you, and it's not so that you can go traveling around doing different conferences, which I never did. But so, I had, and that was early on, maybe 7-8 years ago. And so I've learned to be content with wherever he's asked me to be. And I said something about 2 months ago. I said, as long as I got 10 people showing up, we'll be here.
Yep.
Right? The day we have 7 people show up, and the people are done with truth, then we'll have to rethink what we're going to do. But we're not about numbers. It's just about keeping our ego in check, giving truth from the scriptures, and provide something that there are other people doing, but not too many. So,
yeah. All right. everyone, thank you for tuning in to Real Conversations from House of Scripture. We appreciate your time. Why don't you give a subscribe to our YouTube channel? We'd really appreciate that. Give us a like. And then if you don't mind, share this video. Put it out on Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media platform that you might be a part of. Let's get the word out. See if we can get some comments back. But again, thank you. We'll see you on the next episode.